What if I told you the next crypto bull run won't start with Bitcoin? Not a sudden tweet from Elon. Not a viral meme coin. Not even a Bitcoin ETF announcement. No, the real spark is much quieter. It won't come from a crypto influencer. It'll come from a conference room in Washington, D.C., where a group of unelected bankers in suits quietly adjust the dial on global liquidity. I'm talking about the Federal Reserve, the most powerful financial institution on Earth. The institution that can freeze markets with a sentence or flood them with money at the flick of a switch. And that switch is already moving. Behind the headlines, the Fed is preparing for a major pivot, from tightening to easing, from hawkish to dovish, from draining liquidity to injecting it. And when that happens, when the money printer starts to warm up, assets that have been undervalued, overlooked, and underestimated will explode. Not randomly, not all at once, but strategically, starting with projects that have real-world infrastructure, real adoption, and real utility. Coins like XRP with its ties to global payments, XLM, serving the unbanked and partnering with giants like MoneyGram, HBAR, built for enterprise-grade use and backed by the likes of Google and IBM, SUI, delivering speed and scalability for the next generation of apps, and ADA, steadily laying the foundation for decentralized identity and governance. This isn't hype. This is macroeconomics meeting blockchain utility. This is monetary policy crossing paths with the future of finance. And the window to position yourself is open, but not for long. So let me break it all down: what the Fed is signaling, how it impacts crypto, and why early altcoin investors could be looking at the biggest upside in this entire cycle, if they're paying attention. Let's start with the big picture, and by that, I mean the U.S. Federal Reserve, aka the most powerful financial institution in the world. For the last 18 months, the Fed has been on a mission. They've been raising interest rates faster and higher than we've seen in decades. And the reason? Inflation. You probably remember when eggs were 1,000 Nigerian nairas a crate and gas prices were through the roof. That wasn't just bad luck. That was the result of massive money printing during the pandemic, supply chain disruptions, and excess demand flooding the system. So the Fed stepped in to fix it the only way they know how, by making money more expensive to borrow. Now here's what that actually means. When the Fed hikes interest rates, borrowing costs shoot up. Loans become more expensive for businesses, homeowners, and average consumers. Credit card interest skyrockets. And most importantly, investors get scared. They pull their money out of risky assets like crypto and park it in safer plays like bonds, dollars, or just plain cash. And the effect? You've seen it. Markets crashed. Crypto bled out. Liquidity dried up. Suddenly, all that hype and FOMO disappeared, and altcoins that were once mooning were now scraping along the bottom. Projects with real potential got buried under fear. But here's the part most people are missing, and this is where things get interesting. That entire cycle is winding down. Inflation has been steadily dropping. It's still above target, sure, but it's come down a lot from its peak. Consumer demand is softening. Big companies are laying people off. And beneath all of that, the U.S. government is sitting on a mountain of debt, over $34 trillion and growing fast. At these high interest rates, that debt becomes insanely expensive to service. Every month, more and more of the federal budget is going just to pay the interest on the debt. So let's connect the dots. The Fed wants to bring inflation under control, but they also don't want to crash the economy. And they definitely can't afford to keep interest rates high forever. They're trapped. And they know it. Which means a pivot is coming. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it's coming. And when it does, it's going to come in one of two forms. Rate cuts, lowering interest rates to stimulate borrowing and investment. Quantitative easing, injecting liquidity into the economy by buying bonds or other assets. Now when that moment hits, when the Fed signals it's ready to ease up, the markets will react fast. Stocks will surge. Real estate will climb. And yes, crypto will come back to life. But not just randomly. Not just any coin. The money will flow back into high-utility projects with real-world use cases. Coins that solve actual problems and have already built infrastructure. So when we say, the Fed is about to make us rich, we're not talking lottery tickets. We're talking about understanding the macro signals, being early, and positioning yourself before the crowd wakes up. Because when liquidity returns, it won't trickle in, it'll flood. And you want to be standing in the right place before that wave hits. Why this is big for crypto? Especially altcoins. Now this part right here is where things get interesting. Because when the money starts flowing back into the system, when the Fed eases up and liquidity returns, it doesn't all go straight into altcoins. It starts with Bitcoin. That's just how this cycle works. Bitcoin is the big dog. It's the first mover, the gateway, the digital gold. So yeah, we'll probably see BTC lead the rally. It always does. It's safer, more familiar, and the media loves to talk about it first. But here's what always happens next. And if you've been in the space for more than one cycle, you already know where this is going. Once Bitcoin starts climbing, people get curious. They start looking around like, okay, if Bitcoin just did a 2x, what else could do a 5x? Or a 10x? That's when attention shifts. That's when capital rotates. That's when altcoins start exploding. But, and this is critical, not all altcoins are created equal. This isn't 2021 anymore. The days of random meme coins pumping just because they have a cute dog logo are fading. The market's gotten smarter. Investors, especially institutional ones, are becoming more selective. So no, I'm not talking about hype coins or short-term casino plays. I'm talking about altcoins with real fundamentals. Coins with utility, meaning they actually do something valuable. Coins with partnerships, not just buzzwords, but real integrations with banks, corporations, or governments. Coins with infrastructure, networks that can actually scale and handle traffic without breaking. Coins with vision, projects that are solving real-world problems, not just building for the sake of number go up. Because here's the thing, when liquidity returns, it's not just retail FOMOing in anymore. You've got hedge funds watching. You've got tech companies allocating. You've got governments quietly positioning themselves in blockchain infrastructure. And they're not touching sketchy projects. They're going for assets that are secure, scalable, and regulatory friendly. That's why coins like XRP, XLM, HBAR, SUI, and ADA are so important to pay attention to. They've been building, quietly, consistently, through the bear market. While most projects faded, these ones doubled down on real-world partnerships and future-proof architecture. So yeah, when the Fed pivots and the floodgates open, people won't just be looking at Bitcoin anymore. They'll be looking for the next wave. And if you're already in those projects before the rest of the world catches on, you're not just participating in the market, you're ahead of it. Now let me show you exactly which coins I'm watching and why. XRP, the banker's coin. First up, XRP. Now, unless you're brand new to crypto, you probably already know XRP is a different kind of beast. This isn't some retail pump and dump token. This is a coin built specifically to solve one very real, very expensive problem: cross-border payments. Ripple, the company behind XRP, has spent the last several years building out RippleNet, a global payment network aimed at making international money transfers faster, cheaper, and more efficient. We're talking direct integrations with banks, fintech companies, and even central banks in regions like the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Yes, the SEC lawsuit slowed things down in the US, but globally, Ripple didn't miss a beat. In fact, they expanded aggressively. Now that the legal fog is starting to clear and things are moving toward resolution, institutional interest is already creeping back in. XRP isn't about speculation. It's about infrastructure. Right now, traditional systems like SWIFT take 2 to 5 days to move money across borders. XRP can settle that in 3 to 5 seconds with minimal fees. That's not hype, that's tech with real-world implications. And when global liquidity starts flowing again, especially in emerging markets where remittances and cross-border trade are exploding, a fast, decentralized solution like XRP becomes a serious advantage. If banks and financial institutions start scaling with RippleNet, we're not talking about XRP at 60 cents anymore. We're talking about a whole different ball game. XLM, the people's payment rail. Next up, Stellar, XLM. If XRP is targeting the banks, XLM is targeting the people. specifically the unbanked and underbanked populations around the world. Stellar was designed to be a decentralized protocol for sending money quickly and cheaply, particularly for remittances and micropayments. And they're not just talking about it, they're doing it. XLM has a major partnership with MoneyGram, allowing users to convert fiat to crypto and back in nearly real time. They've also integrated with USDC, one of the most trusted stablecoins, making it easier to bridge fiat and digital assets without all the volatility. But the real game changer? Stellar's focus on financial inclusion. In countries where traditional banking systems don't reach, where people rely on cash, mobile phones, and informal systems, Stellar is quietly laying the rails for the future of finance. And when the global economy shifts and money starts moving again, especially during inflationary pressures or currency devaluation, Stellar will be in the flow. Low fees, instant settlement, scalable, real-world usage. That's what makes XLM more than just a token. It's a tool. HBAR, Enterprise meets blockchain. Then we've got HBAR, the native token of Hedera Hashgraph, and this one is completely different. Where most blockchains are open and decentralized in the Wild West kind of way, Hedera is built for enterprise-level adoption, and its governing council proves it. We're talking companies like Google, IBM, Boeing, LG, Standard Bank, all actively participating in the governance and growth of the network. These aren't your average Web3 Deegan plays. These are some of the most powerful brands on Earth. What makes HBAR stand out is its hashgraph consensus algorithm, which isn't exactly a blockchain. It's a directed acyclic graph, DAG, that offers lightning-fast transactions, extremely low fees, and top-tier energy efficiency. The use cases go way beyond crypto trading, supply chain tracking, digital identity, tokenized assets, carbon credit systems, healthcare records, micropayments. This is the kind of network that's quietly building the infrastructure for the next internet. And when money starts flowing back into tech, especially from corporations and governments, HBR has the architecture to scale. So don't sleep on it just because it doesn't trend on Twitter. HBAR is built for the long game and the big players. SUI, the scalable upstart. Alright, let's shift to something newer. SUI. SUI is built by Mission Labs, a team of former Meta, Facebook, engineers, and it's powered by the Move language, originally developed for Meta's DM project. Translation. This isn't just another copy-paste blockchain. SUI was designed from the ground up for speed, low fees, and scalability. Where does that matter most? Gaming, decentralized apps, and NFT infrastructure. Right now, most Layer 1 struggle under heavy load, gas fees spike, transactions slow down, and user experience suffers. SUI flips that problem on its head with parallel transaction processing, meaning it can handle massive user activity without choking. Imagine what happens if GameFi comes back in a big way, or if metaverse platforms finally hit critical mass, or even just social apps and marketplaces built on-chain with real-time interaction. SUI is already gaining traction with developers and has been rolling out incentive programs to build on its ecosystem. And when liquidity returns, people will be looking for the next Solana-type breakout, and SUI could easily be in that conversation. ADA, the silent builder. And finally, ADA, aka Cardano. Now look, I get it. Cardano has a reputation for being slow, academic, and sometimes painfully cautious. But here's the thing, they're doing it right. Founded by Charles Hoskinson, one of Ethereum's original co-founders, Cardano takes a peer-reviewed approach to blockchain development. Every upgrade is backed by research, formal verification, and a serious long-term vision. In the last couple of years, Cardano has launched smart contracts, Plutus, introduced native tokens without needing smart contracts, rolled out on-chain governance models, expanded into Africa with blockchain-based ID systems. Their work in Ethiopia with digital credentials for students and teachers is one of the largest real-world blockchain deployments in existence. And it's still just beginning. Cardano isn't trying to move fast and break things. They're trying to build something sustainable, scalable, and sovereign. When global adoption grows, especially in underserved markets, ADA is already there, boots on the ground, building systems that work. If you're thinking long-term, Cardano is a project that deserves a seat at the table. All of these coins, XRP, XLM, HBAR, SUI, and ADA, they're not hype coins. They're infrastructure coins. And when the Fed opens the floodgates and liquidity returns, these are the types of assets that could lead the next wave of serious adoption and serious gains. Alright, that wraps it up. The Fed is shifting, liquidity is coming, and the smart money is already moving into high-utility altcoins. XRP, XLM, HBAR, SUI, ADA, these aren't just tokens, they're infrastructure plays. If you're paying attention now, you won't be chasing later. If you got value from this, hit that like button, subscribe for more no-fluff crypto breakdowns, and drop a comment. What altcoin are you stacking for the next run? Thanks for watching, stay ready, stay early, and I'll see you in the next one.